The first thing people learn after the collapse is to stop looking for stars. Even the youngest children know the sky is no longer a vault of light, but a restless curtain, forever twisting in colors no painter's palette can match. Lime and indigo waves wrestle ruby whirlwinds. Silver rainbows drip across the zenith, vanishing before they reach the jagged horizon of shattered cities. We call it the ghost fire, though old manuals list its name as the Aegis Array, an orbital lattice of laser mirrors once intended to keep wars off Earth. It misfired on the day of splintering, and has since ground over itself in slow, angry orbits, scattering magnetic shards of radiance. Its energy fields knock out satellites, ruin compasses, scramble weather, and cook delicate circuitry for kilometers at random. The ghost fire writes itself across the heavens, every dusk and dawn, humming at frequencies that make iron nails thrum and the roots of your teeth ache. Nobody remembers when the government that launched it crumbled, only that it never learned how to switch the thing off. I never expected to meet someone who claimed she could. Lice Marrow walked into our settlement at Tallow Bridge, carrying nothing but a cane carved with constellations she had never seen, and an antique brass eyepiece with the lenses removed. She was led by a boy who said nothing, who vanished into the crowd once she'd found footing on the flagstones. She called for the council, said her business could not wait, and in the hush that followed, I pushed closer. Curious, uninvited, a scavenger with dirt under my nails and smuggled circuits bulging in my coat. That was the night the air smelled of burned ozone from a recent ghost fire surge. Broken radios still smoked on work tables. No one had patience for strangers preaching miracles. "I am an astronomer," she declared. Her voice was low, careful, as though testing each syllable for structural integrity. "I studied the sky before your mothers were born. I've walked observatories you have seen only on torn pages, and I know how to close the array." Laughter rose, not mocking exactly, more the brittle sound made by people balancing fear and disappointment. Lice held her ground, unblinking behind a pair of milky pupils. I remember how still she seemed, like gravity itself had paused in respect. Chancellor Hanst, our nearest stand-in for a mayor, folded his arms. "You're blind," he said. Not cruel, simply stating what he saw. "I am," she agreed. "Yet I carry the last map that matters, and I don't need eyes to read it." Hanst glanced round to make sure we noted her arrogance. "Where is this map?" She tapped the brass eyepiece. Encoded here in Braille microetchings, the access codes, the shutdown sequence, the orbital drift data. She lifted the constellation cane. And here, a resonant key tuned to the array's corrections thrusters. But I need help reaching the uplink tower in the Bone Ranges. I cannot travel alone. I don't know why I stepped forward. Maybe because nobody else did. Maybe because my life was already a ledger of reckless decisions. Maybe because whenever the ghost fire flared, I pictured myself at 8 years old, shielding my little sister as rooftops melted, and I wanted someone to blame, or forgive, or both. "I'll guide you," I said. "If your story's true." Her head tilted, as if mapping the shape of my voice. "Your name?" "Cal Rayner." "A scavenger's gate," she whispered oddly. "Boots patched with rubber, 2 different layers. Right boot, heavier by a screwdriver in the inner pocket. Left knee favors an old injury." The crowd hushed. "You're suited to the road, Cal Rayner." "Will you swear?" I swore. Not to her, but on the hush of everyone waiting, the sky crackling above. We left at dawn with minimal ceremony. Word had spread that the ghost fire's pulses were intensifying. If Lice failed, nothing lost but one scavenger nobody trusted, and one blind wanderer nobody believed. Hanst issued us hardened water tablets, a compass I suspected would spin uselessly, and a warning: return with results or not at all. Encouraging, I thought. The bone ranges rose serrated beyond farmland, long turned to marsh. Eroded wind turbines jutted like colossal thorns. We walked through grasslands that glowed teal at night from ionized seedlings, side effects of decades under auroras. By day, the auroras dimmed but never vanished. They lurked like bruises smeared across pale skies. Every few hours, the array groaned overhead, audible even through the hush of open country. Metal protesting in upper atmospheres. Lice marched unerringly, cane-tapping rhythm that felt like an old metronome. She smelled the air, listened for the tremors. She never asked for compass readings. Instead, she pointed 6 degrees east and corrected me when we drifted. I asked how she knew. Magnetic echoes, she said. The array sings through stone. She taught me to lay my palms against rock and feel faint, metallic thrums. Blindness, I learned, was not an absence, but another architecture of perception. Nights, we camped under curtains of writhing light. Electronics were risky. One surge could fry everything. Liz kept the brass eyepiece wrapped in wool, only opening it to run her fingertips across the inner rim. Whispering coordinates I couldn't decipher. She told stories to keep time, of pre-war symposiums, of observatories on high deserts where mirrors turned like petals chasing starlight. She spoke of students who argued definitions of infinity until dawn. She spoke of a world where the sky was a promise, not a warning. All vanished in one misaligned firing solution from the Aegis array. Why did it fail? I asked, poking at embers. Sabotage, maybe, or wrong hands. All I know, multiple relays overloaded, power oscillated back through node spines, fused in open position. Now it cycles energy without ground, a perpetual wound. She fell silent. I noticed her hands tremble. Later I would realize fear wasn't the cause. Withdrawal was. She was weaning herself off pain suppressants, saving the last tablets for when we needed them most. On the 7th day, we reached the crater fields, scars from orbital beams that once punched the crust like God's own chisel. Soil there was magnetized. Shards of black glass sang when the wind crossed them. My compass spun, then cracked. We navigated by the moans of twisted pylons that dotted the plains like frozen serpents, remnants of an early relay network, also ruined by ghost fire. I glimpsed shapes in the haze, other travelers perhaps, or nightmares born of exhaustion. We did not stop to greet them. Storms rolled in on the 9th night, bloated with charged particles. The air flickered strobe white. Hair rose on my arms. My tongue tasted copper. I yanked lice under the overhang of a toppled water tower seconds before a beam of green-white energy speared the ground where we'd stood, leaving a circle of sizzling glass. The array had burped. My heart hammered like a salvage engine, trying to self-ignite. Lice remained calm, counting seconds under her breath until the hum subsided. That was a calibration pulse, she said. Power is spiking. We must reach the uplink before the array self-corrects again. The next surge may not be as forgiving. By dawn, the terrain climbed. We entered the bone ranges proper, jagged limestone ridges resembling a fossilized sea. At each pass, battered signs warned of mines, radiation, rogue drones. Most tech had long died, but stories persisted of auto-target turrets still waiting for passwords they'd never receive. Lice assured me they were offline. Her concern lay with the ground itself. There's a node net beneath, she explained, superconducting cables strung like nerve fibers to anchor the uplink tower. They may still hold charge. Sure enough, the limestone glimmered faintly. My boot heel loosened a shard, and blue sparks crawled across the fracture. We moved slowly, stepping only where scrub grass grew, terrain less likely infused with residual current. The tower revealed itself on the 13th day, a needle of graphite and steel, skewering the highest ridge, half collapsed, its dish array smashed. Fetid clouds curled around its upper reaches, flickering turquoise. I felt small, as if approaching the spine of some fallen titan. Lys inhaled sharply. "The tower's crown is gone," I said. "Yes," she answered, "but the spinal conduit may remain intact. We need only reach the primary junction room." She motioned with her cane. "Follow the resonance downstairs, not upstairs." Inside, the stairwell spiraled downward into bitter air. Paint peeled in frost-like sheets. My flashlight sputtered but held. The concrete walls were lead-lined, possibly shielding us from the worst pulses. We descended through silence, broken by distant thunder, or giant capacitors discharging far overhead. Emergency lamps, their batteries maybe decades gone, still glowed faintly from ambient induction. Ghost fire's child, feeding on its parents' bleed-off. I thought about turning back. The shaft felt like a throat. Yet Lys gripped the railing with steady determination, guiding me for a change, counting steps. 97 treads, landing, door corroded but unlocked. The junction room. Banks of terminals hugged walls in horseshoe arcs. Most screens shattered long ago. Cables hung like vines. In the center rose a pedestal with a port hidden under a cracked panel. Lys knelt beside it, fingers dancing across rust until she found a manual lever. With a grunt, she popped the panel, revealing a cylindrical socket. She withdrew the brass eyepiece and, to my astonishment, unscrewed its end cap, revealing not empty glass but a crystal studded with microprisms. "This is the seed key," she murmured. "Grown in zero-G labs back when governments still believed in restraint. It contains the kill chain for the array." "How do you know it will fit?" I asked. "I architected both." She hesitated, then spoke like someone confessing to a priest. "I was chief systems engineer for the Aegis array. My passcode still rides on every handshake protocol." Shock lifted my stomach. "You built the weapon that ruined us." The words tasted like copper lightning. "I built a shield," she corrected softly. "Politicians turned it into a saber. After the coup, I defected. They blinded me to ensure I could never recalibrate the lasers, never override remote locks. A foolish precaution. I had always listened to the sky more than watched it." Heat flooded my face. I wanted to shout, to blame her for every friend cooked in stray beams, for my sister, who still woke screaming from Aurora nightmares. But I'd sworn to guide her. More, I realized that only someone burdened by such guilt would trek through hell to mend it. I pressed my rage down like iron into a furnace. "Let's end this," I said. She lined the crystal, but her hand shook. The junction socket demanded biometrics, a palm scanner crusted with rust. "It needs a clear print," she said. I grabbed a strip of sandpaper from my kit, scraped the worst corrosion, smeared grease from an old bearing as conductive gel. Lys laid her right palm. The panel beeped, a high, surprised chirp like a bird that forgot extinction. Lines of green digits cascaded on a half-lit monitor. A progress bar crawled. Outside, thunder grew savage. The array felt us. From the depths above, a tremor shook dust from the ceiling. Emergency klaxons tried to wail, but only croaked. The display locked at 63%. "It's hanging," I said. "Magnetic interference," Lys answered, breath thin. "Crystal must be realigned mid-transfer. The resonance key is my cane. Tilt it 30 degrees until vibration peaks." I seized the wooden shaft and felt a gentle buzz. I rotated until the buzz intensified. then plateaued. Sparks jumped between key and socket. The bar leapt to 85%. The room flashed violet. A surge ripped through wiring. A console exploded, showering shards. Pain lanced my shoulder. The beam had found the tower, dumping energy down its core. Lice flew backward, glasses shattering. Fire licked cables. 75% the screen now read. "It reversed!" I shouted. "Manual override!" Lace crawled, blood on her temple. She groped for the crystal. Another jolt flung her flat. Ceiling cracks spread. I saw in that moment a choice. Run, while escape remained, or finish the attempt with her method or mine. I remembered being 8, shielding my sister. I remembered the day the ghost fire took the stars. I grabbed the crystal, jammed it back. Unthinking, I pressed my palm to the scanner. It shouldn't accept. Biometrics mismatched. Yet code scrolled, hesitating, uncertain, until I felt Lice's hand cover mine. She whispered a string of numbers. "Say them," she gasped. I repeated them aloud. My voice echoed, layered. The system's vocal fallback recognized tone patterns, cadences she'd embedded decades prior. The bar soared to 100. A hum swallowed the tower, like a chord resolved after years of dissonance. Static drained from consoles. Lights dimmed, then brightened white, stable, the first pure white I'd seen since childhood. Above, the thunder stilled. "We did it?" I asked. "Partially," she said, pushing herself upright. "Shutdown initiated, but holds at command layer. We must commit physically in the sky." "What?" "The array will interpret ground kill codes as sabotage. Someone must send a confirmation pulse via its own relay. That's why there are thunder lifts." She gestured toward a darkened side corridor. I found a shaft, fitted with an elevator cage. Manuals on the wall labeled it a maintenance ascender. Magnetically driven, exposed to the tower's exterior, to reach service platforms at stratospheric heights. Power flickered alive, fed by the system we'd nudged. "I'll go," I said. Lice shook her head. "It requires the key. My biometrics. My voice." Blood glazed her cheek. She could barely stand. We argued until the floor jolted again, issuing from above. Time thinned like ice under boots. Finally, we agreed. I would guide her one last time. The cage rattled skyward. Through grated walls, I watched clouds race past, tattered flags of charged vapor. The auroras glimmered muted now, as though waiting to see who would claim dominion. We cleared cloud line. Stars peeked shyly beyond thinning curtains, dim pinholes I hadn't glimpsed since the splintering. My breath hitched. The cage halted at a platform around the tower's stump, where antenna roots twisted like broken fingers. A faint dome of field lines crackled overhead. In the distance, I spotted the array's mirrors, glittering shards orbiting, feral but magnificent. They glinted like wolves' eyes reflecting campfire. Lice stepped to an interface pedestal, a replica of the one below, but paired to a dish pointed skyward. I steadied her. She placed the crystal. A beam of pale green light shot up, painting a column into darkness. The orbiting mirrors flickered, aligning. I heard relay clicks like enormous camera shutters. The auroras paused. Voice recognition requested confirmation. Lice inhaled. "Marrow, Lysel, Designation Architect Class, Commit Null Fury Protocol." Her voice wavered, but steel underpinned it. The tower vibrated as if joyous. Then came a descending tone, swelling warmth. Above, the array's pieces pivoted inward, overlapping to dampen residual charge. The shimmering bands unraveled, colors leaking like dye into water, diluting. Stars multiplied in naked patches. I wept, shocking myself. Tears tasted of saline in decades. Lies sagged. I caught her. "Listen," she whispered. "Wind only. No hum. no teeth-chiming resonance, silence pure enough to break hearts. The ghost fire lay dormant. We descended before dawn colored the horizon. At base, the world felt heavier, yet kinder, as though gravity reset. Lisa's steps were slow. Painkillers gone, she relied on will. Halfway back across the plains, we met refugees already emerging from shelters, staring upward, confused by sky so plain it seemed counterfeit. A woman gasped when she saw the Milky Way smudged faintly in charcoal arcs. Children reached, expecting to pull ribbons of color. None came. News traveled faster than we walked. By the time we returned to Tallow Bridge, bonfires blazed in celebration. Chancellor Hanst awaited at the gate under a sky now ordinary, save for the fragile brush of dawn. He asked what price we paid. I said only, "She gave back the stars." Lise was offered the finest room, but she insisted on the observatory, an old water tower repurposed with salvage lenses. That night, everyone gathered to watch her sit, sightless, beneath the universe she could not see. I set her cane and eyepiece on her lap. She traced constellations on the metal roof with her fingers, smiling. "Do you regret building it?" I asked softly. "I regret waiting so long to fix it." Her head lifted toward the heavens. "But listen." Crickets chirped. Faraway dogs barked. Someone's radio crackled to life intact. This is the sound of worlds mending. Months would pass before engineers confirmed the array's core reactors finally cooled. Years before farmland recovered, before magnetic storms ceased entirely. Yet on that first night of true darkness, people named stars they'd only known from hymns. They told stories of an astronomer who read maps with her hands, guided by a scavenger who learned rage could kindle purpose. They buried their fears with the ghost fire. I lay beside Lise atop the water tower, counting meteors while she counted heartbeats of the ground. And for the first time since childhood, the sky felt bigger than my grief.